Marketing is one of my favorite topics because it often comes up when you get to the place where you're often when your practice is feeling like it's moving really well and then you're ready to scale, or you feel like the practice really needs to be busier for you to be making more money for you to be successful, and then you really need some marketing like in place to help you because sometimes you have to spend some money to be able to make more money. And today we're going to specifically talk about whether or not you are overpaying for the marketing that you're doing for your practice. People ask me all the time about budgets, like how much should I be spending? How much money on ads, how much money for my website, how much money for SEO, how much money for, all the millions of things you could possibly doing to market your practice. And we're going to try to cover that. I'm going to give you some guidelines and some data today, and we're going to help you figure out some things you probably should find out from the people doing your marketing to know whether or not you are overpaying. But first things first, I stress this a lot in some of my other talks and teachings, but to me, it really is critical. Some dentists think that they absolutely need marketing because they really need to up cash flow in the practice they're trying to grow. And so they think that the answer is just more new patients, like more new patients equals more money, which therefore equals less stress or whatever solution they think it's going to bring. But I want you to keep in mind that you shouldn't be trying to really up the new patient volume in your practice until you've got a really good handle on your internal systems. What do I mean by that? I mean that you have a new patient experience in your practice that patients rave about. That you know things, stats like your call to booking ratio or your case or treatment acceptance rate, so that you know that when people do come through the door, you keep them. You know that when people call your practice, they get booked. People pay their bills, like all of those things. You have to know that all the internal systems, all the things within the four walls of your awesome little practice are working well before pumping the new patient button is going to solve any type of problem like cash flow, right? If all the systems inside are working, so if you know that your case acceptance rate or your treatment acceptance rate is up at 80%, fantastic. Bring more new patients through the door because they're going to do the treatment that you're recommending, and then the practice will grow. If you don't know, as an example, how many times new patients call and they don't get booked into your schedule, that's something you should know, because if you start paying a ton of money for marketing and you're asking people to call you, but your admin team is not handling the phones very well, then that's like flushing a whole lot of money down the toilet. So I know I've said this before, and I'm going to keep saying it again. Make sure the systems within the four walls of the practice are where you want them to be before you really start to pump the marketing button. That's probably not the right word, button, but you know what I mean? I don't want you to be pumping new patients in unless you feel like you got everything else in place. And then market to grow, right? Market to find more of your ideal patient, market to grow the practice. Marketing is one of the ways to grow quickly if that's what you need, okay? Now, when I say that, most of you don't actually have time to do all of your own marketing. Some of you can raise your hand like me, have dabbled in pretty much every area of marketing. So I pretty much did all marketing on my own in some form or another before I hired someone else to do it for me. And actually, we've gone back over the last little bit of bringing almost all of our marketing in-house. So some of you hire people to do all of your marketing, fantastic. Some of you do some of the marketing yourself, which is cool. I always love a do-it-yourselfer, and I feel like once you learn it yourself, then you understand it and you can help teach other people to do it. So when you're going to grow your practice, you're likely going to need someone besides yourself, especially once you get to a certain size and your marketing efforts maybe have to grow. You probably can't do all of it yourself. So what might that look like? Well, you could hire a person or a company to do bits and pieces of your marketing for you. So you could hire someone to do like your website. You could maybe hire someone else to do your SEO. You could hire someone else to write email copy for you. You could hire someone else to do ads and on for all the pieces of marketing that you could be doing. Another option you have is you could hire an agency that claims to do all or most marketing things and have them do all of it for you. So instead of having different people and different companies doing all the different pieces of your marketing, you could have an agency that's like saying they're doing all of it. You could hire an in-house marketing person, which is what we're at right now, where you have someone that works for you and just you, who takes on whatever tasks you want done for marketing. You could train an existing team member or existing team members. Maybe they want more hours, more responsibilities, more pay. And so you could give them that by having them take on additional responsibilities, like some of your marketing. And finally, your last option that I could come up with would be you could partner with someone that does customized, like just for you, customized planning, strategy, and execution for your marketing for your practice. Someone that plans and strategizes with you, but then does all of it for you, right? No one has enough time. And is invested in the growth of your practice, meaning someone that's making money only when you make money, right? And that is a newer model, and it's a pretty awesome one, because if you think about it, their success only comes with your success, right? Now, there are valid reasons for all of the structures I just explained, right? It could depend on where your practice is right now, what your budget is, like all of those things. And there's nothing wrong with any of them, but those are all of the different ways I could come up with where you could have help with your marketing, okay? So you get to pick which one's best for you. If you have questions about picking, send me a message. I'll help you decide. So let's get into the nitty-gritty. How much should you pay for marketing? Well, I get asked this all the time. And to be honest, the only true and honest answer is it depends. And we're going to get into the details of that right now. The revenues of your practice play a role in this decision. But another thing that plays a role is the ROI, so the return on investment of the marketing efforts that you're doing, and the amount of growth that you actually want to see, right? So if you look at the stats, and I did some scouring of the beautiful internet, and it told me that the average dental office spends somewhere between 2% and 20%. I think the 20 is really high, but still 2 and 20% of their revenues on marketing. And here's some hard data from you from a bunch of different sources, so you know I didn't make it up. According to First Dentist, most dental business experts recommend spending 20% of projected gross revenue on marketing for a brand new practice. And that makes sense to me on some level, because you're going to have to spend some money when no one knows who you are or what you do in order to build the practice up. Pain-free dental marketing suggests that if your collections are $100,000 per month, your marketing budget would likely fit between $5,000 and $6,000 a month, which implies a marketing spend of 5 to 6% of revenues. Again, I think that's not the only thing to look at, but that's a number. Dr. Logic states that dental practices should set a budget of around $1,000 to $2,000 to generate leads via Google paid search or display ads. So that's one avenue, right? Google ads is just one way to market. Josiah Roche reports that healthcare organizations generally spend 2 to 12% on their gross revenue on marketing. I like that number. That lands where I think it should. Dental Town says that the average amount dental practices spend on dental marketing is between 4 and 7% of annual revenue. S8E8 suggests most successful dental practices spend 2 to 7%. Dentistry IQ recommends it should be between 10 and 12.5%. Brilliant Doc mentions that for a specialist practice, like me and the other specialists in the group, their monthly spend on a marketing budget would be around $4,000. I don't know what that's based on. M Dental Marketing indicates that an established dental practice generating $2 million in annual revenue would spend $80,000 to $140,000 per year, or $6,666 to $11,666 per month, which equals 4 to 7% of revenues. The number that was thrown at me all the time when I was building my practice was, well, if you want to grow, you have to be spending at least 5 to 6% of your revenues on marketing. And I would agree with that number. But that's just a place to start. If you know the range of percentages and you know what your revenues are, which you should, then you can estimate that you should be spending anywhere between 2 and 20% of your revenues on marketing. Now, when I say marketing, that means different things to different people. So I consider that number, so 2 to 20% should be on all marketing efforts combined. And so that means internal and external marketing. So as an example, if you have swag in your office, like we do, so we give away stuff all the time, that's part of your marketing, right? So would things like your website, SEO, email marketing, any kind of sales funnels you have, landing pages, direct mail campaigns, like if you send out, postcards or flyers, like anything else you could spend money on that would market the practice, all of that together, okay? So we know 2 to 20% is the number, and the more you spend, so the higher percentage you'd be spending is if you want more growth. But this next part is probably more important. We're going to talk about ROI, which is return on investment, and ROAS, ROAS, which is return on ad spend. Return on investment, you can apply that term to any of your marketing efforts. Basically saying, like, if you invest a certain amount of money in a strategy, you want to know what your return is on that. Return on ad spend, of course, is very specific for paid ads. So if we're talking about like Google ads, Facebook ads, Insta, YouTube, TikTok, like any of those, then ROAS would be a stat or a number or something that you should know if you're doing paid ads. And the reason these numbers are so important is because of math. If you are doing marketing, let's say, that reliably gets you a return on investment of 5x, how much money are you willing to put towards that effort? Put differently, if every time you spend $1,000 on marketing, something marketing, let's say Google ads, if every time you put in $1,000, you know you generate an additional $5,000 in revenue, okay? So 5x. How many times would you keep doing that? If you can turn $1 into $5 consistently every time you do it, how often would you do it? Probably a lot. And you would do it a lot more than if you had no return on investment, so you put in 1,000 and you get 1,000, or a negative ROI, you put in 1,000 and you get 900, or even a really small ROI. Maybe it's a ton of effort to put in the $1,000 and design all the stuff, and you make $1,100. Maybe that's not worth it, right? The bigger the ROI, the more of a no-brainer that strategy is for you. And the reason this is important is your marketing budget might go up significantly if you found a strategy that gives you an incredible return on investment. Because if you can just take more money and turn it into more money, why wouldn't you do that? You sit there if you had a little machine and you put in $1 and you got $5, you'd sit there all day at that machine, right? And you just keep generating more money, more money, more money, more money. Marketing works the same way. So how do you know what your ROI is? And this is, the funny thing about this is a lot of people don't know and can't figure it out. Here's why. Most practices that are, I will say busy, or as busy, sort of not struggling. We'll say a practice that's not struggling is often using a marketing agency or an outside person to help them with a lot of their marketing strategies. And most marketing agencies or marketing companies will give you a lot of like metrics. They'll give you numbers and graphs and pie charts and whatever. And they're going to show you all these numbers and things that show like how great they're doing. But most, not all, but most of them are not able to show you hard and fast numbers when it comes to ROI. Saying, oh great, like for every $2,000 you give us, we make you $10,000 back at the practice. And the reason they don't do that is either because they don't know how to track what they're doing very well, or they just don't want to track it that way for you and actually calculate it because it's safer for them if you don't know whether or not their efforts are working for you. They're going to assume, and this is smart of them, that you're too busy to care. And as long as you think the money that you're giving them is doing something and you don't feel like you're losing money on it, that you'll just keep giving them money. That's the conundrum I see many people in. So in my experience, I've worked with many marketing agencies. They usually actually have no idea how to figure this out accurately. So they'll say things like, oh, well, you got an extra 200 visitors to your website this month because of the SEO we were doing. It's like, great. How many new patients in the practice did that turn into? If nobody's tracking that, you have no idea. Does 200 new visitors to the website give you one new patient? Does 200 new visitors to the website give you 10 new patients? Right? So there's got to be, so systems have to be set up to track your marketing efforts so you actually know. Because you have to keep in mind that marketing agencies have you pay for their services. Right? I will do SEO for you. I will do Facebook ads for you. I will do Google ads for you. I will build a brand new, beautiful website for you. Very few of them will guarantee results of some kind. And this is to keep them from being held accountable for whether you see results or not, which means they can, just care a little bit instead of caring a whole bunch. And that's part of why we've brought a lot of our marketing in-house because we do care a whole lot. So we've got the budget sorted. I've told you what a really important metric is because that will play a role in what your budget is, but then also in deciding if what you're doing is actually being successful or not. And the last thing in the equation is growth. How much growth do you actually want? The more you want to grow, the bigger your budget should be. And often, the more you want to grow, the bigger budget you'll be, and also the more varied your marketing efforts will be. Because although I said if you can turn $1,000 into $5,000 all day long on Google Ads, there's probably a point at which Google Ads max out and you're putting more money in but not getting the same return on investment. This is something you also have to track. And so then you have to vary your marketing efforts. So then you're like, okay, on Google Ads, it looks like if we spend $5,000 a month on Google Ads, that's going to bring us, $20,000 extra revenue a month in the practice. But when we go higher than that, the graph doesn't stay in a straight line. And so now we're going to start doing some Facebook ads, or maybe now we're going to put a bunch of money towards SEO, or maybe now we're going to redesign the website or add some landing pages or build a lead magnet or something else. You're going to actually take your marketing like out to another level, another venue. Okay. So, that's something that you'll have to think about eventually if you're trying to, scale up from where you are. My recommendation, though, is to start small. So what you do first is you figure out where is your biggest bang for buck. So maybe dabble in a few things and then scale up from there. So let's say you're running some Google ads and you're running some Facebook ads to increase new patients in the practice. And after 3 months, you compare and contrast how those two campaigns did. And if there is a clear ROI winner or a clear ROI loser, either way, you might choose to just run with one of those going forward and scale it up. So maybe you start running two and you're like, you know what? The Google ads are killing the Facebook ads. We're making way more money off of those. It's not worth running both. Let's just run Google ads, right? And then you're making actual informed decisions on your marketing based on actual results, tracked, documented results. So you know exactly where your money is going. I get excited about marketing because it's one of my it's my most fun thing to learn about. It's one of my most fun things to do. But I have a word of caution for you here. If you made it this far into the video, thank you. I know I talk fast, but some marketing strategies that you will employ that I think are very worthy are long game strategies, meaning they need to be ongoing over a very long period of time. So they don't give you a whole bunch of short-term gains, like no big short-term gains, but they give massive long-term payoffs. An example of this would be things like on-page and off-page SEO or activities that build your email list, as an example. Those would be things where it's hard to just do that for 3 months and know whether you should keep putting money towards that. So the key there is to find people, if you're hiring people to do those things, if you're hiring a company or an agency or someone to do SEO for you, then the key is finding someone who can show you their track record. Right? Say, look, I took this dental practice. We did SEO for 12 months for them. At the beginning of 12 months, we had X. At the end, we had Y. And this is how we got there, and this is how much it cost. You have to actually be able to see results that they've done somewhere else, or they have to be able to, explain their strategies and how they're tracking and how they're going to show you, because those things don't turn on just like that. It's not the same as ads. Only you can really determine if you're overpaying for your marketing, because you can figure out what your budget is. You can figure out what is an okay ROI for you. For some people, like a 2 times ROI is fine. And if they're getting 2 times, they're putting in 1,000 and they're getting 2,000, they're totally cool with that. For some people, that's just not enough. That's something you get to decide, right? So make sure you have these numbers. Make sure they're being provided to you. Make sure they're actually accurate. I've had agencies show me numbers before, and then when I asked them to prove it, they couldn't, because they thought I had no idea what I was talking about, or that I had no idea what they were talking about. So I recommend that you figure out what your ROI or ROAS, your return on ad spend, is for any campaigns or any things that you're doing. Figure that part out first, and then you can actually make an educated decision about whether you're overpaying or not, right? That might just mean pivoting, right? Doing something slightly different. How often are they testing things that they're doing? Like if you're paying a company to do it, it may just be about having some hard conversations and actually putting their nose to the grindstone to say, hey, I really want to see results here. I need you to prove to me that the money I'm giving you is worth it. And then going from there. So if you still have any questions about this topic, shoot me a message or write something in the comment below. Send me an email, send me a DM, leave a message, any of those things is cool. And if you're trying to figure it out for yourself, I'm happy to help where I can. You can always tell me what you're doing, show me numbers, walk me through decision making, and if I have any advice, I'll give it to you. I've sort of dabbled in all things. We've paid separate companies, we've paid agencies, we've had it in-house. I now have an in-house person and one other company helping. And so there's many, many ways to go about this, but those are the key things you need to look at. Those are the things you need to understand to know for sure if you're overpaying, or if you're really just trying to set a budget. Those things help tremendously. Marketing shouldn't be a loss. When you think about marketing, which is how I used to think about marketing, I used to think, oh, well, that's just, someone telling me I need to get brand awareness. I'm dumping thousands of dollars at something and I can't tell if it's working or not. Marketing shouldn't be like that. Marketing should always be something that you can track and that you can follow your return so that you can make changes as needed, but you should always be shooting for an ROI that you're comfortable with. Awesome. Thanks for tuning in, ladies.